Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to say that we finally have family mediator and attorney Rachel Alexander, who is the owner and director of the Alexander Mediation Group from Morris County, New Jersey. Now, Rachel's topic for today is, and it's a very interesting topic, I'm sure you'll agree, Rachel's going to be talking about mediation versus litigation. Can we mediate if we don't agree? Now then, I can't wait to hear more about this, and I'm sure you feel the same way too. So if you are one of the, let's say, unfortunate but increasing numbers of couples and families in the Morris County, New Jersey area, you might want to take a break. Grab yourself a notepad and pen and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Rachel has to share with us today. So, with that said, let's not keep her waiting. She's a very, very busy lady. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are so welcome, my dear. So let's just jump feet first in then, Rachel. Briefly, in your own words, describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
The people that I work with are people who typically are going through or are contemplating going through divorce. So that means sometimes they're divorced and they have a post-divorce issue, but mostly I work with people who are at the very beginning stages of thinking about getting a divorce. And they're usually in a kind of emotional, psychological, all kinds of stress and fear and sadness and all kinds of things are really stirred up. And also, I would say the people I work with have an enormous amount of courage because they're looking at making a change and addressing something that is not working.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us, Rachel. It must be said that before we move on, anything that you share with us from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating information. Is that correct, Rachel?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, so with that said then, Rachel, when those couples and families come to you for your help, and I'm sure there are so many that you could share with us, but what's the most common misconception they have surrounding mediation versus litigation?
I think a really common misconception, particularly about mediation, is that people have to be getting along well, they have to have a low conflict situation, or that they have to already have an agreement in hand or in mind before coming to a mediator. And that is not the case. That is the mediator's job. All people need in order to be able to mediate, rather than go to separate attorneys, is a willingness to mediate, a willingness and perhaps an appreciation of what mediation offers, and that it can be a wonderful starting place, an enormously cost-saving starting place, and a way of even possibly having a more reparative experience than the detrimental experience that can be had once people enter the litigation arena.
So, based on what you just shared with us then, Rachel, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, Please share an example or a case study, so to speak, of how you've helped or even how you would go about helping somebody who came to you with those challenges or that misconception you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to or would be able to gain for them.
So in terms of looking at a high conflict couple who has been able to be committed enough to mediation and the mediation process that I was able to get them through, they were able to get themselves through with my help, even when situations would arise where they were so angry at one another and so hurt that one of them would get up and walk out of the room, maybe leave the mediation. Emotions would run very high. There would start to be a real, I would say, like an inflammation of emotion and emotional distress. People sort of beginning to act out where there's yelling, and this is not something that I particularly enjoy or want for my clients. I want them to be able to be in a supportive, calm, non-judgmental environment to do the work that needs to be done. But I've had people in terrible conflict where there's been enormous hurt, there's been betrayal, and I use that word not in a way of pointing fingers, but where a party is experiencing feeling very betrayed, whether it's financially or by an infidelity, and people who are in a state of distress where they even feel like they want to punish the other. And they've been able to and I think partly by my commitment and what mediation affords, being able to be with them where they are and not exclude the emotional experience, but validate it and distinguish it from the legal remedies and the facts is a very important way to be able to keep company with the people and what they're going through and help them through to the other side. So that maybe isn't specific enough, but that's part of, people don't have to be in a friendly place or in a place where they have an agreement. In fact, it's better when people come in before they've had a lot of discussion or think they've reached an agreement, because often they'll think they're saving a lot of money or a lot of time by coming up with an agreement without really any knowledge of matrimonial law or what their rights are or even a clear sense of what their needs are. And so I like to have people come in right away to see me and get some intervention, know they're going to have some support. And then I give them some materials and they might go away for weeks and work some things out themselves, which if they're able to, I encourage that. But I like to help them be on track before they embark on that, trying to settle things.
Mm. It sounds contradictory what you just said there, Rachel, because I'm thinking, I'm imagining my partner has just said, hey, I want a divorce, and for whatever reasons that may be, there are 1,001 reasons. However, I'm feeling hurt, there's conflict arising because of that. And I'm just thinking from a layman's perspective, I'm asking you right now, isn't that then the most difficult time for two people to come together and say, hey, we should go and mediate on this? Isn't it not more natural that they've worked through that initial shock period and then they've, as you said, they think they've worked things out and then they come to you with their own quote unquote plan? I just find that very difficult to get my head around when they're right at the beginning of their divorce, or let's say their partner has just shared with them that they'd like to have a divorce. That's got to be the most difficult time for them to even think about mediation, would it not?
Let me try to clarify that. What I'd like is people not to try to hammer out their own agreements before coming in, because they can get set in, well, we agreed to this, but nobody knows what they're doing, and they can be in a distraught state, or the dynamics of the relationship that are problematic can be dominating. So someone might feel bullied into an agreement. They might be agreeing to something they don't they're uninformed. So before people do that, I prefer to see them. When people say, how can we prepare for mediation? I might have them collect a bunch of data, or if they want to do something, or just have them get the address and come in and start the process with a professional rather than trying to start it alone. When emotions are highest, it's certainly better if people can get some therapeutic intervention, a lot of support, if they can get regulated and settled down before they come into mediation. However, sometimes when people are most stirred up and feeling hurt and feeling that they need to either aggress or at least defend themselves, that's when they might go and get a lawyer, and the emotion is going to be fueling something that where you have something being fueled by an inappropriate mechanism, like trying to run your car on coal. You do not want your legal case or your divorce being fueled by your angst or hostility or sense of rejection or animosity. That is where intervention should take place before anybody acts from that.
Today, my guest is family mediator and attorney Rachel Alexander, who is the owner and director of the Alexander Mediation Group. And her topic for today, as she's already alluded to, is mediation versus litigation. Can we mediate if we don't agree? Now, with that in mind, Rachel, and for those couples and families who are wanting to know more, please share one common but unknown pitfall that they need to be aware of.
The most common pitfall people make, whether they're entering into litigation or mediation, but when they're in what I consider crisis of looking at divorcing, is not asking for and getting support early and often. I do not encourage hoarding of any kind, but I do encourage one kind of hoarding, having just said that, and that is hoarding of support. This is the time where you call in your chips, where this is that rainy day, that proverbial rainy day, where you do call, talk your friends blue in the face if you need to. You find a support group, which I offer a monthly support group for people in the community that's at no cost, so people can come together and appreciate that what they're going through, they're not alone. It can be such an isolating time and a frightening time and a painful time. And that is one of the main things I think we, particularly us Westerners, need to be reminded of. Getting the proper support is an intelligent and courageous thing to do. And, remove any of that sense that you're going to do it alone or you're Indiana Jones or whatever. You can be that, and even he has assistance. So get help. The other thing is the idea, I would say one of the things I'm most passionate about is being not only client-centered, but child-centered. When there are children involved in a divorce, that is where parents typically can prioritize and realign their priorities. Children didn't contract for this, and they are entitled to as much love, as much reassurance, and as much protection from the disharmony going on in the family as is possible. And that's one of the main ways I try to support my families I work with, really protecting the children and really reorganizing the family, not breaking the family, not ripping the family apart, but reorganizing the family into something that has the potential to be happier and healthier for everybody involved in it.
When you think about all of the people who you have had the pleasure, or I would say even the honor of being able to help in the past, what's most important to you about helping your clients to achieve their desired outcomes?
My clients' well-being, their overall well-being is most important to me. And my clients are both are both people. My clients I see as the entire family unit.
Right.
So one beautiful moment I had in mediation was I have a home office, and I was mediating from there, and the parents, the couple I was mediating with, had a situation where they didn't have childcare at that moment, and they needed to come in, and the children were able to be in a different part of the house. But as children will do, the little girl, wanted to come in and see what was going on. And she saw, as I have things set up, that the parents were sitting on the same side of the table together, and I was sitting across from them. And they had identical folders, which is part of what I give as my kind of beginning packet for clients. And the little girl said, "Mom, why do you and Dad have the same folders?" And the mom said, "Because we're on the same team."
Awesome.
I thought it was so deeply touching, and it was really a highlight for me that she was able to express, we're here. The act of going to mediation is an expression of love from parents to say, we're going through a rough time, and we're your parents, and we're here for you, and we're going to work together as a family to get into a better spot. And we love you enough, and we respect one another enough, or our family system enough, that we're going to do what's maybe the hardest thing we've ever had to do, which is compassionately and lovingly face a divorce together.
So in that particular situation, I'm sure many others where you have beautiful moments like that, how does that make you feel then, Rachel?
Privileged to be witness to it and be supporting that or even an environment where that can occur. But I feel very privileged to work with the people I get to work with, and the trust they place in me, and how vulnerable they are when they're coming to me. So I have a great deal of respect for them and what they're facing, and just I feel very touched when I can see clients really, in many ways, being their best selves and their highest selves, and being able to be such loving parents in a process that's so taxing.
Well, thank you for being open and, almost a little bit vulnerable during our conversation so far. Could you do me a favor, Rachel, and just spend a brief moment telling us a little bit about your background, and especially your formal education, as well as your experience as it relates to the topic of mediation?
Sure. So, well, I am a graduate of Columbia University. I went to Barnard College undergraduate, and I went to Cardozo Law School, where I focused almost entirely on alternative dispute resolution and mediation. And prior to that, I was at Columbia School of Social Work, where I didn't complete, but I spent some time there and did some coursework and a field placement. So about a year's worth of work and a semester's worth of field placement. So with just a real sensitivity to the family system. And I think that probably largely informs my practice. Also, I've just completed a 2-year certification in something called focus-oriented therapy, which has to do with it's in our time period, a bit too much to get into, but it is a therapeutic approach, and that is how I, even as a lawyer, try to approach my work, that I'm working with people, and there's the presence of humanity and, what it means to be a human being as we're going through all of these challenges.
Before you go, can you just share what your final thoughts would be for those people who are listening in right now?
I think to really do a little bit of research. There's a lot of information on my website that they can see, and on many people's websites, many mediators, to do a little bit of research, to not overwhelm themselves, and to be very gentle with themselves going through this process, and to move a little bit slowly. There can be a sense of urgency because people are in pain and they want relief. So to take an action by getting some professional help, by getting some intervention, and getting support, but to know that first order of business is getting emotionally stabilized and grounded, and then turning towards this and putting yourself in good hands and getting some good help, not to act from a place of high emotion, but to take good care of yourself, support yourself, and reach out, do what's needed to get grounded and safe emotionally, and then take the next step. Divorce is not going anywhere. You have a chance to calm down and go for a run or something, and then call the mediator.
If there is somebody who wants to know if they can mediate if they don't agree, what would be the easiest way for them to connect with you then, Rachel? Where would they find you?
So they can find me on my website, which is alexandermediation.com. And they can find me, and my phone number is listed there. All numbers go to me. And just to even reach out and have a conversation. I don't charge for a phone conversation. I usually spend about 15 to 25 minutes with someone just to kind of get a sense of where they are, let them get a sense of me, and ask some questions. And then we can assess together, does it make sense to move forward with mediation? Should they have a consult with an attorney, separate from me? And I always ask them to, if they do seem like a good fit, for them to have their spouse call, so the spouse has the same opportunity and can appreciate that my role would be to serve both of them, not to be one or the other's mediator.
Right. So, Rachel, would you mind sharing that phone number? Because not everybody may have direct access to the internet as they're listening to this. Go ahead, please. Oh,
sure. So I can be reached at 908-310-3397.
So, folks, it's been fun listening to Rachel. I really have a feeling that we've only began to scrape the tip of the iceberg with the amount of insights that Rachel could have shared with us today. However, we are limited by time. So, once more, as a reminder, that was family mediator and attorney Rachel Alexander. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Rachel. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator and trustworthy advisor for your client's success. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, my dear. It's been great having you on the show. And I'd also like to, take a moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, you, the listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to speak to. So thank you for joining us on what I can only describe as a very insightful and informative conversation with one of the leading family mediators and attorneys in the Morris County, New Jersey area today. Again, her name is Rachel Alexander. She has a fantastic surname, by the way. I wonder where she got that one from. Make sure you do check her out. Give her a call. She shared her phone number, and she's got some great resources on her website. And whatever you do decide to do after listening to Rachel for this short period of time today, I'm sure that you're going to be in a great place to get started. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.